On a warm summer afternoon, the small town of Maplewood buzzed with its usual charm. The sun hung high in the sky, casting golden rays over neatly trimmed lawns and colorful flower beds. Birds chirped softly from the trees lining Main Street, and a gentle breeze carried the faint scent of freshly cut grass. It was the kind of day that made people want to slow down, enjoy life, and maybe sip something cold under the shade. Lily Parker, a bright-eyed 12-year-old with curly blonde hair tied back in a ponytail, was doing just that. Well, sort of. She wasn't relaxing. Instead, she was busy setting up her lemonade stand on the corner of Main Street. Her mom, Karen, had helped her carry out a foldable table earlier that morning, along with a large pitcher filled with homemade lemonade. Now, Lily worked diligently, arranging plastic cups into neat rows and placing a handwritten sign at the front of the table. The sign read, "Lemonade 1" in bold blue letters, surrounded by cheerful doodles of lemons and sunshine. Karen watched from their front porch, leaning against the railing as she sipped her own glass of iced tea. She smiled, proudly at her daughter's determination. For weeks, Lily had been talking about buying a shiny red bicycle she'd seen in the store window downtown. Instead of asking for money, she decided to earn it herself. Her lemonade stand wasn't just a way to make some cash. It was a project, born out of independence and creativity. By noon, everything was ready. Lily stood behind her table, wearing an apron decorated with tiny yellow lemons. She grinned widely, feeling like a real business owner. Cars drove past slowly, and pedestrians strolled by, giving her curious glances. Some stopped to buy a cup of lemonade, dropping coins into the small jar she used as a cash register. Mr. Dawson, the elderly librarian who always smelled faintly of old books, was one of her first customers. He patted her on the head and complimented her drink, saying it reminded him of summers long gone. As the hours passed, Lily grew more confident. She greeted each customer with a friendly, "Hello," and thanked them warmly after every sale. A group of kids on skateboards bought 3 cups to share, laughing as they tried to guess how many lemons went into each batch. Even Mrs. Thompson, the grumpy woman who lived 2 houses down, couldn't resist stopping by. Though she complained about the price being too steep, she still handed over $1 before walking away, muttering about inflation. Everything seemed perfect. The sun was shining, people were smiling, and Lily's jar was slowly filling up with coins. But then, just as she was starting to think this might be the best day ever, the peace was shattered by a loud rumbling noise. It grew louder and louder until it drowned out the sound of birdsong and laughter. Everyone turned to look toward the source of the disturbance, a gang of bikers roaring down Main Street. At the head of the pack was Jake Malone, a man infamous in Maplewood for his reckless behavior and bad temper. His leather jacket gleamed in the sunlight, and his dark sunglasses hid his eyes, making him look even more intimidating. Behind him rode Rick, a burly guy with tattoos covering his arms and a scowl etched onto his face. They weren't locals. They rarely came through town. But whenever they did, trouble followed close behind. The bikers zoomed past Lily's stand without slowing down, causing her table to wobble slightly from the force of the wind. She steadied it quickly, frowning but not letting it ruin her mood. After all, they were already gone, disappearing around the bend as fast as they'd arrived. Or so she thought. Minutes later, the rumbling returned. This time, the bikers slowed down dramatically, almost crawling along the road. Jake led the way again, but it was Rick who caught Lily's attention. He veered off the main path and rolled his motorcycle right up to her lemonade stand. The engine roared deafeningly as he came to a stop, sending vibrations rippling through the ground. Lily took a step back, clutching her apron nervously. Rick removed his helmet, revealing a scruffy beard and piercing eyes that scanned the setup dismissively. "What's this?" he barked, pointing at the sign. His voice was rough, like gravel grinding together. Lily swallowed hard but managed to respond politely. "It's my lemonade stand," she said, forcing a smile. "Would you like to buy a cup?" Rick snorted, clearly unimpressed. "Buy? Nah, I don't pay for stuff like this. Give me a cup. For free." Lily hesitated. She didn't know what to say. Her mom had taught her to be polite, but she also knew she needed the money for her bike. Summoning her courage, she shook her head gently. "I'm sorry, but I can't give it away for free. I'm saving up for something important." Rick's expression darkened instantly. "You're refusing me?" he growled, leaning forward on his motorcycle. His shadow loomed over her tiny frame, making him seem even bigger and scarier than before. "Do you have any idea who I am?" Before Lily could answer, Rick swung his leg over the bike and stepped closer to the table. He grabbed one of the cups, sniffed it disdainfully, and tossed it aside. Then, without warning, he slammed his fist onto the surface, sending the pitcher of lemonade flying. Cold liquid splashed everywhere, drenching the tablecloth and spilling onto the pavement. The force of the blow knocked Lily backward, and she landed hard on the ground, scraping her elbow. Pain shot through her arm, but it was nothing compared to the shock and fear coursing through her body. Tears welled up in her eyes as she stared at the mess in front of her, the ruined lemonade, the scattered cups, and the empty jar where her earnings had been. Rick loomed above her, sneering cruelly. "That'll teach you to disrespect me," he spat. People nearby began to notice what was happening. A few gasped or murmured angrily, but no one dared to intervene. Jake and the other bikers idled nearby, watching the scene unfold with smug expressions. It felt like time had frozen, leaving Lily alone and vulnerable in the middle of the chaos. But then, just as Rick raised his foot to kick over the table completely, a car horn blared loudly. Two figures stepped out of a sleek black vehicle parked across the street. One was tall and muscular, with skin the color of caramel and an unmistakable presence. The other was equally imposing, with short brown hair and a confident stride. Onlookers whispered excitedly, recognizing the faces immediately. Dwayne, The Rock, Johnson, and John Cena had arrived. The tension in the air shifted instantly. All eyes turned to the newcomers, who approached the scene with purposeful steps. The Rock's jaw tightened as he surveyed the destruction, while Cena's gaze locked onto Lily, concern flashing in his eyes. Without hesitation, they inserted themselves between the frightened girl and the menacing biker. "What do you think you're doing?" The Rock asked, his deep voice cutting through the silence like a knife. Rick froze, caught off guard by the sudden confrontation. For a moment, nobody moved. The only sounds were the distant hum of traffic and the soft whirring of leaves in the breeze. And just like that, the stage was set for a showdown that would leave an indelible mark on the little town of Maplewood and on Lily Parker's life forever. The moment The Rock and John Cena stepped into the scene, the atmosphere changed completely. Rick, who had been towering over Lily with an air of arrogance, suddenly seemed less sure of himself. He glanced at the two men, then back at Jake and the other bikers idling nearby. His confidence wavered, but he tried to mask it by puffing out his chest and narrowing his eyes. "What's it to you?" Rick snapped, his voice laced with irritation. "This ain't your business." The Rock crossed his arms, his muscles flexing, involuntarily as he stood tall and unshaken. His expression was calm, but there was a flicker of anger in his eyes. "Oh, I think it is," he said, his deep voice steady and commanding. "You don't get to treat a kid like that. Not on my watch." John Cena crouched down beside Lily, who was still sitting on the ground, clutching her scraped elbow. Her face was streaked with tears, and her hands trembled as she tried to wipe them away. Cena gave her a reassuring smile, his blue eyes soft and kind. "Hey there, champ," he said gently. "Are you okay?" Lily nodded, though her lip quivered. She wasn't used to being called champ by someone like John Cena, someone she'd only ever seen on TV or in wrestling matches. It felt surreal, like a dream she didn't want to wake up from. But the pain in her arm and the mess around her reminded her that this was very real. Cena turned his attention to the spilled lemonade and the overturned table. He clenched his jaw, clearly upset by what he saw. Then, standing up, he fixed Rick with a hard stare. "You messed with the wrong girl today," he said, his tone firm but controlled. "And trust me, you're not walking away from this without making things right." Rick scoffed, trying to act tough despite the tension thickening in the air. "You've got to be kidding me." he muttered, glancing at Jake for support. But Jake stayed silent, leaning against his motorcycle with his arms crossed. Even he could sense that picking a fight with these two men might not end well. The crowd of onlookers grew larger as people gathered around to see what would happen next. Some held their phones up, recording the scene, while others whispered, nervously among themselves. A few kids who had been drinking lemonade earlier stood frozen, wide-eyed and unsure whether to cheer or run home. Everyone knew who the Rock and Cena were. They weren't just celebrities, they were icons. And now they were stepping in to defend a little girl who had done nothing wrong. "You heard him," The Rock said, taking a step closer to Rick. Each movement radiated authority, making Rick instinctively take a step back. "Apologize to Lily, clean up this mess, and then leave peacefully." Rick hesitated, his bravado faltering under the weight of The Rock's presence. For a split second it looked like he might actually listen, but pride, or maybe stupidity, got the better of him. Instead of apologizing, he balled his fists and sneered, "You think we're scared of you too? You're just actors playing pretend on TV." His words hung in the air, met with silence. No one laughed. No one even moved. The Rock tilted his head slightly, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Actors, huh?" he said, his voice low and calm. "Well, let me tell you something about actors." In one swift motion, he closed the distance between himself and Rick, standing so close that their faces were almost touching. "We know how to put on a show, but this isn't Hollywood. This is real life. And if you want to start something, I guarantee you won't like how it ends." Rick swallowed hard, visibly shaken. He glanced at Jake again, hoping for backup, but Jake remained unmoved. The rest of the bikers exchanged uneasy looks, shifting uncomfortably on their motorcycles. None of them wanted to be part of whatever was about to happen. Meanwhile, Cena kept his focus on Lily. He helped her stand up, brushing dirt off her knees and checking her elbow. "You're brave, kiddo," he told her softly. "Braver than most adults I know. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Lily sniffled but managed a small smile. Having Cena there made her feel safer, like she wasn't alone anymore. She glanced at The Rock, who was still glaring at Rick, and felt a surge of gratitude. These two strangers didn't have to stop and help her, but they did, and she couldn't understand why. Back at the center of the confrontation, Rick tried to regain control of the situation. "Fine," he growled, throwing up his hands. "Whatever. We'll leave, but don't think this is over." The Rock raised an eyebrow. "Oh, I think it is," he replied coolly. "Unless you want to explain to everyone here why you decided to pick on a 12-year-old girl selling lemonade. Go ahead. Make your case. I'm listening." Rick opened his mouth to retort but quickly shut it again. There was no argument he could make that wouldn't make him look worse. Defeated, he grabbed his helmet and stomped back to his motorcycle. Jake signaled to the others, and one by one, they revved their engines and sped off down Main Street, leaving behind a cloud of dust and the lingering smell of exhaust fumes. As the sound of their motorcycles faded into the distance, the crowd erupted into cheers and applause. People clapped enthusiastically, some even whistling or shouting words of thanks to The Rock and Cena. It was clear that everyone was grateful for what they had done. Karen, Lily's mom, rushed over from the porch, her face pale with worry. She hugged her daughter tightly, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Oh, sweetheart," she murmured, stroking Lily's hair. When she finally looked up at The Rock and Cena, her voice cracked with emotion. "Thank you. Thank you so much." The Rock smiled warmly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "No need to thank us," he said. "We couldn't just stand by and do nothing." Cena nodded in agreement. "Bullying doesn't belong anywhere," he added, "especially not in a town like this." Lily wiped her eyes, feeling a mix of relief and awe. She never imagined that her lemonade stand would attract such attention, or that two of her favorite celebrities would come to her rescue. As she looked around at the smiling faces of her neighbors and the pile of coins still scattered on the ground, she realized something important. Even when things seemed hopeless, there were always good people willing to step in and help. Word. of what happened spread quickly through Maplewood. By evening, social media was buzzing with posts about the incident. Videos of The Rock confronting Rick went viral, and local news stations scrambled to cover the story. People praised the actions of the two celebrities, calling them heroes and role models. For Lily, however, the day wasn't just about fame or recognition. It was about standing up for herself and learning that kindness could shine brightest in the darkest moments. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Lily sat with her mom on the front porch. The Rock and Cena had already left, heading back to their busy lives, but their impact lingered. Lily gazed at the empty space where her lemonade stand had once stood and felt a spark of determination ignite within her. Tomorrow she decided she would rebuild it, and this time she wouldn't let anything stop her. The next morning, Maplewood woke up buzzing with excitement. The story of Lily Parker's lemonade stand and the unexpected intervention of the Rock and John Cena had spread like wildfire. Neighbors who hadn't been there the day before were talking about it over coffee. Kids at school whispered about it during recess, and even the local radio station played a segment about it during breakfast hours. It seemed like everyone in town had something to say about what had happened, and most of it was good. Lily woke up early, her mind racing with thoughts of the previous day. She could still picture Rick's angry face, hear the roar of his motorcycle, and feel the fear that had gripped her when he knocked over her table. But she also remembered The Rock stepping in, calm and strong, and Cena's reassuring smile as he helped her stand up. Those memories gave her courage now, as she got dressed and headed outside to see if anything could be salvaged from her stand. Her mom, Karen, was already out front, sweeping up broken cups and pieces of the tablecloth. When she saw Lily, she stopped and pulled her into a hug. "I'm so proud of you," Karen said softly, brushing a strand of hair behind her daughter's ear. "You handled everything so well yesterday." Lily shrugged, feeling a mix of pride and embarrassment. "I didn't really do much," she admitted. "It was The Rock and Cena who saved me." Karen smiled. "Maybe, but you stood your ground when that man tried to scare you. That takes guts, sweetheart. Not everyone would have done that." As they worked together to clean up the mess, neighbors began stopping by to offer their support. Mrs. Thompson, the grumpy woman who lived down the street, surprised them both by bringing over a fresh batch of cookies. "For Lily," she said, gruffly, avoiding eye contact. "Good job standing up to those bullies." Other townsfolk followed suit. Mr. Dawson, the librarian, dropped off a brand new pitcher for her lemonade. A group of kids from school came by with colorful drawings they'd made of Lily's stand, complete with stick figure versions of the Rock and Cena. Even strangers passing through town stopped to leave encouraging words or a few dollars in a jar someone had set out labeled Lily's Lemonade Fund. By mid-morning, the corner of Main Street looked completely different. What had been a scene of chaos and destruction just hours earlier was now filled with hope and community spirit. Someone had strung up a banner that read, "We stand with Lily," across the fence near her house. Others brought chairs and blankets, turning the area into an impromptu gathering spot. It was clear that Lily's little lemonade stand had become more than just a way for her to earn money. It had turned into a symbol of unity and resilience. Word of the growing movement reached the Rock and Cena, who were staying at a nearby hotel while filming their movie. They heard about the banner, the donations, and the overwhelming support from the people of Maplewood. Both men were touched by how deeply their actions had resonated with the community. After finishing their work for the day, they decided to pay another visit to Lily and her family. When their car pulled up to the curb, cheers erupted from the crowd gathered around the stand. People waved and clapped, calling out their names and thanking them again for stepping in. The Rock stepped out first, waving back with his signature megawatt smile. Cena followed close behind, holding a large bag in one hand. Together, they walked over to where Lily and her mom were standing, looking both surprised and thrilled to see them. "Looks like we missed quite the party," Cena joked, setting the bag down on the table. Inside were supplies, new cups, napkins, a sturdy folding table, and even a bright yellow umbrella to provide shade. "Thought you might need these," he explained, winking at Lily. Lily's eyes widened in disbelief. "You didn't have to," Do this, she stammered, her cheeks flushing red. Thank you so much. The Rock chuckled, placing a hand on her shoulder. Of course we did, he said warmly. You're part of this community now, and communities take care of each other. Karen wiped away tears, overwhelmed by the kindness of these two men. We can't thank you enough, she said, shaking her head. This means so much to us. To all of us. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of activity. With help from the Rock and Cena, Lily rebuilt her lemonade stand stronger and better than before. Dozens of people lined up to buy cups of lemonade, many paying far more than the $1 price tag just to show their support. Kids posed for photos with the Rock and Cena, giggling nervously as they asked for autographs. Parents shared stories of their own encounters with bullying, expressing gratitude for the message the two celebrities had sent by standing up for Lily. At one point, Cena took the microphone from a local reporter covering the event and addressed the crowd. This young lady is proof that bravery comes in all shapes and sizes, he said, pointing to Lily. She didn't let fear stop her from doing what was right, and neither should any of you. Bullying has no place in our world, not here, not anywhere. His words earned loud applause, and The Rock added his own thoughts moments later. We're just visitors in this town, he said, his voice carrying easily over the murmurs of the crowd. But we saw something worth fighting. For a girl who refused to back down in a community that rallied around her, that's the kind of thing that gives me hope for the future. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and purple, the celebration started winding down. People packed up their chairs and blankets, leaving behind piles of cash in the donation jar. By the end of the night, Lily's earnings had far exceeded her original goal of buying a new bike. In fact, she had enough to open a savings account and still have plenty left over. Before heading back to their hotel, The Rock and Cena pulled Lily aside for a private moment. Listen, champ, Cena said, kneeling down to meet her eye level. What happened yesterday wasn't fair, and I know it might stick with you for a while. But remember this, you're stronger than anyone who tries to bring you down. Always keep that in mind. The Rock nodded in agreement. And if you ever need backup, you know where to find us, he said with a wink. Just give us a call. Lily laughed, though her eyes glistened with unshed tears. I will, she promised. Thank you for everything. That night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Lily replayed the events of the past 2 days in her mind. From the terrifying encounter with Rick to the heartwarming outpouring of love from her community, it had been a roller coaster of emotions. But through it all, she had learned something important. No matter how tough things got, there would always be people willing to stand up for what was right. The following week, the mayor of Maplewood announced plans to hold a special ceremony in honor of Lily and her courage. The event would take place in the park with speeches, music, and, of course, plenty of lemonade. Flyers went up around town inviting everyone to attend, and soon news of the celebration reached neighboring cities as well. For Lily, the attention was surreal. She never imagined that her simple idea of selling lemonade would lead to such a big impact. But as she stood beside her newly rebuilt stand the next day, watching neighbors chat and laugh as they enjoyed her drink, she realized something else. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness could create the biggest waves of change. And in that moment, surrounded by the people she loved and the heroes who had inspired her, Lily knew she would carry the lessons of this experience with her for the rest of her life. The day of the ceremony arrived and Maplewood buzzed with excitement. The park was transformed into a lively gathering spot, with colorful decorations strung between trees and tables set up for food and drinks. A small stage stood at the center, adorned with balloons and a banner that read, "Celebrating Courage, Honoring Lily Parker." People from all over town, and even neighboring areas, showed up to support the young girl who had become an unlikely symbol of bravery. Lily woke up early that morning, her stomach fluttering with nerves. She hadn't expected so much attention when she first set up her lemonade stand. Back then, it had just been about earning enough money for a new bike. Now, it felt like the whole world was watching her. As she got dressed in a bright yellow sundress, the same color as her lemonade stand, she couldn't help but wonder if she deserved all this praise. Her mom, Karen, noticed her unease and gave her a reassuring hug. "You've done nothing wrong," she said gently. "You stood up for yourself and people are proud of you. That's something to celebrate." By the time they reached the park, the place was already packed. Families spread out picnic blankets on the grass, children ran around playing tag, and volunteers handed out cups of lemonade to thirsty visitors. A local band played cheerful tunes on a makeshift stage, adding to the festive atmosphere. It was hard to believe that just a week ago, the same corner where Lily's stand once stood had been a scene of chaos and fear. As the clock ticked closer to noon, the crowd gathered near the stage. The mayor of Maplewood stepped up to the microphone, adjusting his glasses as he looked out at the sea of faces. "Good afternoon, everyone," he began, his voice warm and welcoming. "Today we come together not just to honor a remarkable young lady, but to celebrate the values she represents: courage, kindness, and community." He went on to recount the story of Lily's lemonade stand, emphasizing how her determination inspired those around her. When he mentioned The Rock and John Cena, the audience erupted into applause. Both men sat in the front row, smiling and waving as cameras flashed and people cheered. They had agreed to stay longer in town specifically for this event, wanting to show their continued support for Lily and the community. When the mayor finished speaking, he invited Lily to join him on stage. Her heart raced as she climbed the steps, feeling hundreds of eyes on her. For a moment she froze, unsure of what to say. But then she saw her mom beaming proudly from the front row, The Rock giving her a thumbs up, and Cena mouthing the words, "You've got this." Taking a deep breath, she stepped up to the microphone. "Hi everyone," she started, her voice trembling slightly. "I didn't think selling lemonade would turn into, well, all of this." The crowd laughed softly, easing some of her nervousness. "But I'm glad it did because it showed me how amazing our town is. So many people came together to help me rebuild my stand and make me feel safe again. And The Rock and Cena, they didn't have to do anything, but they did. They taught me that standing up for others is important no matter who you are." Her words were simple, but they carried a powerful message. Many in the audience nodded in agreement, moved by her sincerity. When she finished speaking, the applause was thunderous. People stood up clapping and whistling as Lily returned to her seat, her face glowing with pride. Next, The Rock took the stage. He grabbed the microphone with both hands, his broad shoulders filling the space behind the podium. "Let me tell you something," he began, his deep voice resonating across the park. "When we heard about what happened to Lily, we knew we had to step in. Not because we're celebrities or athletes, but because it was the right thing to do. Bullying has no place in our communities, and it's up to all of us to stop it." He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "Lily showed incredible strength when she refused to back down even when someone tried to intimidate her. That takes guts, and it's something we should all strive for. Stand tall, speak your truth, and never let anyone make you feel small." Cena followed with his own speech, keeping things light and relatable. "I've been in plenty of tough situations in the wrestling ring," he joked, earning laughter from the crowd. "But nothing compares to facing real-life challenges. What Lily did here, it's bigger than any championship belt or movie role. She reminded us that kindness matters, and that sometimes the smallest voices can make the loudest impact." By the end of their speeches, there wasn't a dry eye in the park. Parents hugged their kids tighter, friends exchanged smiles, and strangers struck up conversations about how they could make their own communities better. The ceremony wasn't just about celebrating Lily. It was about inspiring everyone to take action against bullying and injustice. After the speeches, the celebration continued with games, music, and, of course, more lemonade. Volunteers helped. Lily served cups to eager guests, while others sold baked goods and handmade crafts to raise additional funds for local charities. Lily decided to donate half of her earnings to a nearby organization that supported victims of bullying, hoping to give back to those who needed it most. Throughout the afternoon, The Rock and Cena stayed close by, posing for photos, signing autographs, and chatting with fans. They made sure to spend extra time with Lily, sharing stories about their own experiences growing up and offering advice on how to handle difficult situations. Life isn't always fair, Cena told her during one quiet moment. But every challenge is a chance to grow stronger. Just keep being you and you'll inspire more people than you realize. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the park, the festivities slowly wound down. Families packed up their belongings, leaving behind piles of donations and heartfelt notes of encouragement for Lily. The Rock and Cena lingered for a while longer, helping clean up and thanking everyone for coming. Before they left, they pulled Lily aside for one last conversation. "You've done something special here," The Rock said, kneeling down to meet her eye level. "Don't ever forget that. You've brought people together, and that's a gift not everyone has." Cena nodded in agreement. "And remember, we're always rooting for you," he added. "If you ever need us, we're just a phone call away." But Lily smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "Thank you," she whispered, hugging them both tightly. "I'll never forget this." That night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Lily thought about everything that had happened. From the terrifying encounter with Rick to the overwhelming support of her community, it had been a whirlwind of emotions. But through it all, she had learned valuable lessons about courage, kindness, and the power of standing up for what was right. The next morning, she woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. With her mom's help, she reopened her lemonade stand, determined to keep going despite everything that had happened. This time, though, she wasn't doing it just for herself. She wanted to use her stand as a way to spread positivity and bring people together, just like the ceremony had done. Neighbors stopped by to buy lemonade, praising Lily for her resilience and generosity. Some brought signs to hang near the stand, encouraging others to be brave like Lily or spread kindness everywhere. Even teachers from her school visited, promising to share her story with their students as an example of how to handle adversity. As the weeks passed, Lily's lemonade stand became more than just a business. It became a beacon of hope and unity in Maplewood. Strangers drove from miles away to visit, inspired by her story. Local businesses donated supplies and volunteers helped her expand her offerings to include cookies, muffins, and even homemade bracelets. Through it all, Lily remained humble, focusing on the joy her little stand brought to others. She often thought about the Rock and Cena, wondering if they realized how much their actions had changed her life. Thanks to them, she had discovered a strength within herself that she never knew existed. And thanks to her community, she had learned that even in the darkest moments there was always light to be found. For Lily, the journey was far from over, but as she poured another cup of lemonade and handed it to a smiling customer, she knew one thing for certain: she was ready for whatever came next. Weeks turned into months and life in Maplewood settled into a new rhythm. Lily's lemonade stand became a permanent fixture on the corner of Main Street, drawing visitors from near and far. What had started as a simple project to earn money for a bike had grown into something much bigger, a symbol of courage, kindness, and community spirit. People came not just for the refreshing drinks but also to meet the young girl who had inspired so many. Lily embraced her role as a local hero, with grace and humility. Each morning she woke up excited to set up her stand, arranging colorful cups and signs with cheerful messages like, "Be brave" and "Kindness matters." Her mom, Karen, often helped her bake cookies or muffins to sell alongside the lemonade, turning the stand into a mini bakery as well. Together they worked tirelessly, determined to keep the positive energy alive. The support from the town didn't fade either. Neighbors continued to drop by, bringing supplies, sharing stories, and offering words of encouragement. Local businesses donated ingredients, umbrellas for shade, and even a small sound system so Lily could play music while she worked. Some days, musicians from the community performed live near the stand, adding to the lively atmosphere. The once quiet corner of Main Street had transformed into a hub of activity and connection. One Saturday afternoon, a man named Steve pulled up in a truck loaded with wooden planks and tools. He introduced himself as a carpenter who had heard about Lily's story and wanted to help. "This table is great," he said, pointing to the folding table she used. but I think you deserve something sturdier." By the end of the day, he had built her a beautiful custom stand with shelves for cups, jars for tips, and a bright yellow awning that matched her dress. It was sturdy, practical, and perfectly suited for its purpose. Lily hugged him tightly, overwhelmed by his generosity. As word of her stand spread beyond Maplewood, people began sharing their own stories of overcoming challenges. A woman named Emily traveled 2 hours just to visit Lily. She explained that she had been bullied at work and felt hopeless until she read about Lily's bravery. "You reminded me that standing up for myself isn't weakness, it's strength," Emily said, tears glistening in her eyes. Lily listened intently, nodding as she handed her a cup of lemonade. "Thank you for telling me," she replied softly. "That means a lot." These interactions taught Lily something profound. Her actions had ripple effects far beyond what she could see. Every person who stopped by carried a piece of her story with them, spreading her message of resilience and kindness wherever they went. It made her feel both proud and responsible, proud of what she had accomplished and responsible for continuing to make a difference. Meanwhile, The Rock and John Cena stayed in touch, checking in regularly via video calls. They sent care packages filled with wrestling memorabilia, handwritten notes, and gift cards to help with supplies. Occasionally, they surprised her with virtual appearances during busy weekends, popping onto a tablet screen to wave at customers and cheer her on. These moments brought joy not only to Lily but also to everyone around her. Seeing how much these two celebrities cared reinforced the idea that no act of kindness was too small. Inspired by their example, Lily decided to organize a charity event to give back to the community that had supported her. With the help of her mom and some neighbors, she planned a Kindness Day festival in the park. There would be games, food stalls, live music, and speeches from local leaders about the importance of treating others with respect. Proceeds from the event would go to organizations fighting bullying and supporting victims of abuse. Planning the festival kept Lily busy for weeks. She designed flyers with bright colors and bold fonts, asking volunteers to contribute baked goods, toys, or time. Schools and churches pitched in, donating prizes for raffles and organizing art contests for kids. Even the mayor agreed to speak at the opening ceremony, praising Lily's efforts to create a culture of compassion in Maplewood. On the day of the festival, the park overflowed with people. Children laughed as they played tug-of-war and sack. Races, families enjoyed picnic lunches under the trees, and musicians performed upbeat songs on the stage. Lily stood near the entrance, welcoming guests and handing out maps of the event. Her face lit up every time someone thanked her, or shared how her story had impacted them. During the opening ceremony, The Rock and Cena appeared via video call, their faces projected onto a large screen for everyone to see. "Hey, champ," Cena said, waving enthusiastically. "We're so proud of everything you've done. You're proof that one person can spark big change." The Rock nodded, his signature grin lighting up the screen. "Keep shining your light, Lily. The world needs more people like you." Their words brought tears to Lily's eyes, but she quickly wiped them away, smiling brightly as the crowd erupted into applause. Afterward, she joined her mom on stage to cut the ribbon, officially opening the festival. As confetti rained down and cheers echoed through the park, Lily felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This wasn't just her victory. It belonged to everyone who had supported her along the way. Throughout the day, Lily moved between booths, chatting with vendors and playing games with kids. At one point, she noticed a boy sitting alone on a bench looking sad. His name was Alex, and he told her he had been bullied at school for being quiet. "It's hard to make friends sometimes," he admitted, staring at the ground. Lily sat beside him, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "I know it feels lonely," she said gently. "But remember, you're not alone. There are people who care about you, even if they don't always show it, and you're stronger than anyone who tries to hurt you." Alex looked up, his eyes wide with surprise. "Really?" "Really," Lily assured him. "If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here. We all are." By the end of the festival, thousands of dollars had been raised for charity, and countless connections had been made. Parents exchanged numbers, promising playdates for their kids. Teachers brainstormed ways to address bullying in schools. And Lily? She walked home that evening feeling like she'd taken another step toward making the world a better place. That night, as she lay in bed, Lily thought about how much her life had changed since the day Rick knocked over her table. Back then, she had felt powerless and afraid. Now she knew she had the strength to face anything, and the power to inspire others to do the same. Her journey wasn't perfect, and there were still moments when doubt crept in. But those moments were fleeting, replaced quickly by memories of laughter, love, and triumph. Whether it was serving lemonade to strangers, organizing festivals, or simply listening to someone in need, Lily had found her purpose: to spread kindness and remind others that they mattered. And as long as she kept doing that, she knew she could handle whatever came next. As the seasons changed, so did Lily's life. The once bright summer days gave way to crisp autumn mornings, and the leaves on the trees lining Main Street turned shades of orange, red, and gold. Despite the cooler weather, Lily's lemonade stand remained a popular spot in Maplewood. She adapted by adding hot cocoa and spiced cider to her menu, ensuring that people still had a reason to stop by. Her stand became a year-round destination, not just for refreshments but also for connection and inspiration. Lily continued to grow into her role as a community leader, though she didn't think of herself that way. To her, she was just a kid who loved making lemonade and talking to people. But others saw something special in her, a spark that lit up those around her. Parents brought their children to meet her, hoping they'd learn from her example. Teachers invited her to speak at schools about standing up to bullies and spreading kindness. Even local newspapers featured her story, calling her the girl who changed Maplewood. Her mom, Karen, often joked that Lily was busier than most adults. Between running her stand, organizing events, and speaking at community gatherings, there were days when it felt like there weren't enough hours. But Lily thrived on it. Every smile she received, every story shared, and every act of gratitude fueled her determination to keep going. One chilly November morning, a letter arrived in the mail. It was addressed to Lily, with no return address. Curious, she opened it carefully and pulled out a handwritten note. The handwriting was neat but unfamiliar. "Dear Lily," it began, "I don't know if you'll remember me, but I'm Rick, the guy who knocked over your lemonade stand last summer. I've thought a lot about what happened that day, and I want to say I'm sorry. What I did was wrong, and I regret it deeply. You didn't deserve any of it. Since then, I've been trying to turn my life around. Your courage inspired me to do better. Thank you." Lily read the letter twice, her heart pounding. At first, she wasn't sure how to feel. Anger, relief, surprise. All of those emotions swirled inside her, but eventually, a sense of peace settled over her. She showed the letter to her mom, who hugged her tightly. "This is huge, sweetheart," Karen said. "It takes a lot of strength to apologize like that." The next day, Lily wrote back. Her response was short but heartfelt. "Thank you for saying sorry," she wrote. "Everyone makes mistakes, and I'm glad you're working to be a better person. That's all anyone can ask for. If you're ever in town, stop by my stand. I'd love to talk more." Rick never came to visit, but knowing he had reached out made Lily reflect on forgiveness. She realized that holding on to anger wouldn't change the past. It would only weigh her down. Letting go allowed her to focus on the future, one filled with hope and possibility. By December, the holiday season was in full swing. Lights twinkled in windows, carolers sang on street corners, and snow dusted the rooftops. Lily decided to host a special event called Warm Hearts Winter Festival to bring the community together during the coldest months. With help from neighbors and local businesses, she transformed the park into a winter wonderland complete with ice skating, sledding hills, and a giant tree decorated with ornaments donated by residents. At the center of the festival was Lily's stand, now serving free cups of hot chocolate topped with marshmallows. Families gathered around, sipping their drinks and sharing stories. For many, it was a chance to slow down and appreciate the simple joys of the season. For Lily, it was another opportunity to spread kindness and to remind everyone that even in the darkest times, warmth could still be found. During the festival, the Rock and Cena surprised her with an unexpected visit. They had finished filming their movie nearby and wanted to see how she was doing. When they arrived, the crowd erupted into cheers. Children ran up to them asking for autographs and photos, while adults thanked them for stepping in when Lily needed them most. "We couldn't miss this," Cena said, wrapping an arm around Lily. "You've done incredible things since we last saw you, and we're proud of you," the Nine Rock added, his voice booming over the noise. "You've shown everyone here what true leadership looks like." Lily blushed, feeling both proud and grateful. "I couldn't have done it without you guys or without my mom and everyone else who helped," she said. "This isn't just my story. It's ours." As the evening wore on, Lily stood beside her stand, watching the festivities unfold. Snow began to fall gently, blanketing the ground in white. Laughter filled the air, mingling with the scent of pine and cinnamon. In that moment, she felt an overwhelming sense of belonging, a reminder that she was part of something much bigger than herself. Years later, Lily would look back on these days with fondness and pride. The little girl who had once dreamed of buying a bike had grown into a young woman known for her compassion and resilience. Her lemonade stand had evolved into a nonprofit organization dedicated to fighting bullying and supporting victims of abuse. Schools across the country invited her to speak, and she traveled frequently, sharing her story and encouraging others to stand up for what was right. Through it all, the Rock and Cena remained mentors and friends. They stayed in touch, offering advice and cheering her on whenever she faced new challenges. Their belief in her never wavered, and neither did hers in them. But perhaps the greatest legacy of that chaotic summer afternoon was the impact it had on Maplewood itself. The town became a model for other communities, proving that kindness and unity could overcome fear and division. People looked out for one another, celebrated differences, and worked together to create a safer, happier place for everyone. For Lily, the journey had been unpredictable and sometimes difficult, but it had also been beautiful. She had learned that even the smallest actions, like setting up a lemonade stand, could lead to big changes. And she had discovered that courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about facing fear head-on and choosing to do the right thing anyway. As she poured another cup of hot chocolate one snowy evening, surrounded by smiling faces and twinkling lights, Lily smiled to herself. Life wasn't perfect, and it probably never would be. But as long as she kept spreading kindness and standing up for others, she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be.